All right, we continue with virtual Big South Media Day. Thanks to everyone joining us this morning as we move on to the Winthrop Eagles, who are predicted first on the men's side. And we're going to begin with men's head coach, Pat Kelsey. And we'll hear from Chandler Valdrin, one of the preseason all-conference honorees, announced earlier this morning. Coach, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody. How are you?
We're doing great. We'll just jump right into it. Let's hear your thoughts on how preseason is going and all the preparations for the season.
Good. I mean, I'm very pleased with our progress. Unique circumstances, to say the least. One unique thing amongst the 1,000 others is the fact that we can't play scrimmages against other schools. So typically, when you have 42 days to get 30 practices in, which is the typical preseason, you have those scrimmages to look forward to, and it kind of breaks things up, breaks the monotony, if you will. So part of the magic that you're trying to figure out is, keeping your guys engaged for such a long period of time from when practice starts to your first game. And, and to our guys' credit, and I think it's because we have such a veteran bunch that they've been great in that regard. I haven't walked out of the gym one time and felt like, man, that was, Mark Prosser used to call them tractor pulls. We haven't had any tractor pull practices, and I think that is a tip of the cap to our leadership and the tone they set every single day of practice.
Well, thanks, Coach, and I'm sure the next individual we'll bring in is one of your leaders, Chandler Valdrin. Chandler, good morning to you. Welcome. Congratulations on your preseason all-conference selection. If you can kind of give us your perspective on how the preseason prep work's gone, and then we'll kind of open up for questions for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you guys having me on. Kind of like Coach said, it's a daily, it's a long grind. The preseason was a little bit longer this year. And so each and every day we just attack it with a above the line mindset. Everything's the same each day, our approach, no matter if it's a workout, if it's practice, if it's an off day, we approach it like it's our job. And so for us, we're just trying to stay locked in these last 2.5 weeks, up until our first game. And we're all very, very excited about it. But I think our leadership, council, like Coach said, is one of the things that keeps us locked in on a daily schedule. And then our coaches are constantly, switching things up throughout practices, doing late game stuff, early game stuff, new drills and whatnot, just to keep us fresh and keep us doing different things.
Well, thank you, Chandler. We'll go ahead and move the questions from our media that have joined us today. Again, to ask a question, please enter your name in the group chat. We'll get them in the order that they come in. First one is from Alex from the Rock Hill Herald. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, what's up, Chandler and Coach? Coach, my first question is for you. Coming into last season at the Big South Media Day, you were saying, like, I don't really know what we have. You had so many new guys, several transfers, several freshmen. One of the players that you didn't know exactly what you had is the guy who's to the right of you on my screen, at least, Chandler. But this year you do know what you have, and last year obviously you punctuated your season with a Big South championship. How does that change your approach from last season to this season?
Yeah, that's what's fun about what I do in my profession. Forrest Gump said it's like a box of chocolates every year, and that's a fun thing for me, is putting that puzzle together and solving that riddle. Last year was a ton of unknowns. I mean, I felt good about our talent level and our personnel, but it was such a new group, and it's different this year. There's not as much of unknowns. There's a lot of knowns. But Chandler mentioned it. It's the daily approach that these guys have, that although we are proven, we've proven ourselves as, a really good team, because the majority of last year's team is returning for this year. There's been no sense of satisfaction, if you will. There's been no sense of we've arrived and we've made it. There's an edge to our leadership council, as Chandler talked about, which is our juniors and seniors. And it presents a new challenge. Last year we were probably more the hunters than the hunted, although typically, Winthrop over time has picked at the top of the league standings, close to the top of the league standings. So we're never going to catch anybody by surprise. But, I think Radford was really close to being unanimous number one. And we were a bunch of unknowns. We're not this year. We've dealt with this several times throughout my going on 9 years now, where we have been the hunted. I saw the preseason rankings, and it seems like a lot of coaches in the league picked us to be the top team. But our mentality is not going to change from when it was last year when we were the unknown. We pride ourselves in being that hungry group with an edge every single day. So that's the difference, though, between the two approaches and the two challenges. But our mentality stays consistent regardless.
And if I could just ask a follow-up to Chandler, with all of these, pieces that you kind of know what you expect out of them, who has made the biggest improvement in your perspective? Who has made the biggest jump from last year to this year?
You're talking players-wise?
Players-wise, yes.
On
Winthrop.
Yeah, I mean, last year we didn't get to see Josh Corbin. He redshirted. He only played a couple games. Obviously, he can shoot the lights out. Has improved on the defensive end. We didn't see Adonis last year because he sat out as well. So he's kind of an unknown for us. And then my biggest thing would be Jamal King. He's just been a beast on the glass for us this whole preseason. His mindset, the whole second half of the year last year, and then throughout the summer this year, and then during preseason, he's just been an animal. So I'll just stop there. I don't want to give too many of our secrets away. But we're really excited about everybody coming back and our newcomers as well. Super talented, super high-ranked kids in Tenari and KT. So we're excited about the team we have going into this year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alex. Next question is from John Tiedel for Chandler. Go ahead, John.
Good morning, Chandler.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Last January, I doubled with 6 steals and only 28 minutes in the win against Longwood. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear
Hello?
you. I can hear you now.
Cool. Sorry about that. The mute button is not my friend today. Last January, you had the triple-double and 6 steals in only 28 minutes against Longwood. How do you balance all the different aspects of your game? And do you think you can convince Coach Kelsey to let you play 40 minutes this year and try to get a quadruple-double in some game?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I try and do a lot for the team. It's kind of my thing, just to do a little bit of everything. We got guys who can score. We got guys who can rebound. We got guys who can pass, and I just try and sprinkle a little bit of my flavor and all that. But it makes it easy for me. I can get some assists, but it's because I have such lethal shooters and such lethal scorers on the court. And then I got guys who play such good defense that I'm getting open rebounds. So it's not really me. It's just how good coaches have recruited our team. And then I just trust my game and the work that I put in and just try and help us as many areas as possible.
Thank you, John. We're taking questions for Winthrop head coach Pat Kelsey and redshirt senior guard, Chandler Valdron. Chandler, kind of on that note from that last question, what of your game are you looking to improve on?
I mean, it's always been my shooting. That's always been my thing. I feel like that's just something that I improve on each summer. It's I know people are going to play off me. I know they're going to give me space. When I drive in, they're going to try and foul me because, my free throw percentage wasn't great last year. Those are things I all recognize. I'm not going to shy away from that. So it was a big summer for me. I worked really hard, was constantly in the gym all summer. I feel really confident about my jump shot right now, and my free throws will be a ton better this year. So besides that, I feel like that was, kind of one of the last holes in my game that I can kind of shore up. But I'm just super excited about my improvements I made this summer and ready to put them in this season with my team.
Thank you, Chandler. And Alex has another question for you, Coach. Go ahead, Alex.
Coach, what can you say about the two freshmen, two South Carolina guys. What can you say about them?
Well, Tanari's from Georgia, and Kelton's from South Carolina. But
Yeah.
yeah, they got huge ceilings, and they have this unbelievable luxury of being a part of a very veteran-laden team. And you know, you could look at that as a positive and a negative. They look at it as a positive. The negative could potentially be, wow, it's hard to walk in with so many solidified positions, grizzled veterans that I have to play behind, and the fight to get on the court and to win playing time is difficult. And to those kids' credit, they didn't look at it that way in the recruiting process. They want it so bad to be a part of our 25 strong, our culture, and they can learn from a Chandler Waldron, use him as an example. I don't have to say much because of the pride we take in our culture about how to act, how to work, how to train, because you just go like this and you point, you just say, just do what he does. And doesn't matter who it is, if it's Chandler Waldron, if it's Russell Jones, if it's Jamal King, but Chandler being one of those guys that is just, I don't know what the word is, ferocious about improvement. Like he wants to be so stinking good. And there's just a lot of that on our team, but how he looks at weaknesses of his game and tries to make them strengths, how he looks at everything from the amount of sleep he gets to the nutrition, to strength and conditioning, to repetitions, to film study. And guys like Chan, and I'm using him as an example because he's on this call, but I could say this about many of our upperclassmen. It's just the example they set and the tone they set. And those freshmen, you know, are really learning from those guys. They're not backing down. They know I've always been the type of coach, because this is how I learned from Coach Prosser, that it doesn't say, you know, it doesn't say freshman on the front of your jersey. It says Winthrop. And I don't care if you're a 19th year senior like Chandler, or you're a freshman that never played a second of college basketball. Our practices is where playing time is divvied out. And I tell those guys from day one, don't tiptoe out there onto that court. You go out there and charge into that lion's den and try to beat guys out. And although they do have the respect that freshmen need to have toward upperclassmen, when the lights are on and that clock's running, I don't want them to bow down to Chan. I want those guys to go right at Chan's chin every single day. And that's what those guys are doing. I'm really excited about both of them.
Yeah. We I lumped them both into South Carolina State. That's my mistake. I apologize for that. But zeroing in on Kelton Talford, apparently he's known as KT on the team. We talked about him prior to coming to Winthrop, about his bubbly motor, his athleticism. What has struck you the most about him, and do you expect the entire 2,000 population town of Great Falls to descend on Winthrop at some point?
Yeah, being from Great Falls, that's a town that's really proud of the Great Falls tradition. You know, Torrey Craig's from there, but you go down there on a Tuesday or Friday night in the winter, and that place is jumping and packed, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where everybody comes from, but so yeah, they're very, very proud of him, as they should. What Kelton is and what he brings to the table, and in his DNA, is just a junkyard dog. He's a motor guy. You can't really teach effort. You either have that motor or you don't, and he just plays hard. That's his value. Now, is he a skilled kid? Yeah, he can score inside. He can score off either hand. He's got good footwork. He's working hard on his perimeter shooting. But the thing you can take to the bank is that he is going to play as hard as he can to exhaustion, and then he's going to come out of the game. And then when he goes back in, he's going to play as hard as he possibly can again. And that's what he brings to the table, and it's very, very valuable.
Thanks, Coach.
And Coach, as we wrap up, love to hear about your non-conference schedule that you have scheduled for the Eagles.
Yeah, so, in this crazy time, I know there's people around the country that still don't have their total non-conference schedule done. We're very, very, very close, but there's some in December that we're not ready to announce yet. But everybody's heard, obviously, it's been announced about the event in Louisville, where we'll be there for 10 consecutive days. We'll play 5 games in those 10 days, one every 2 days. And then if you couple those with the ones that'll be announced shortly, I would say arguably maybe the most difficult non-conference schedule in the history of our program, in my opinion. Now, you're not going to see it, a schedule just laden with Power 5 teams and things like that, because those games were just really hard to schedule this year. The guarantee amounts aren't the same, and it's just hard. It was really hard to schedule those games. But almost every single team we play, and I don't have the facts on this, so you have to fact check it, but all of them, I think, were 20-win teams last year. All of them finished toward the top of their conference. All of them, you look at the Louisville deal, Seton Hall's really, really good. UNCG is really, really good. Duquesne is really, really good. Little Rock is really, really good. SIU is really, really good. I mean, they are very, very, very tough games. And those are 5 of those in 10 days. And then the ones in December aren't going to be any easier. We got to be ready. And I think the edge we've had in practice is preparing us for that.
Coach, we're going to squeeze in one more question for you from Darren Vaughn. Go ahead, Darren.
Hey, Pat. Appreciate the time. I heard you talking about just sort of being able to point to guys like Chandler when you need to, express to the younger guys who haven't done it and haven't been there before what you're looking for out of them. And maybe this ties in there too. I'm curious, to what degree are you using the lack of an opportunity to represent Winthrop and represent their program in playing in the NCAA tournament last year? How frequently is that something you're mentioning, whether as a motivating factor, or are you seeing it in the actions of guys like Chandler?
Be honest with you, we rarely, very, very rarely bring it up. But they know. I mean, that chip, that hunger, that bad taste in your mouth, that's there, I'm sure. But Chandler mentioned the words at the beginning of the interview, above the line. That's how we look at everything. There's this thing in our program called BCD, which is the worst thing that you can do in our program outside lying, cheating, or mistreating women. And that's to blame, that's to complain, or try to defend ourselves. And in 2020, with all of the adversity and circumstances that are going on, we're not blaming anybody for the cancellation of the tournament. We're not going to complain. We're not going to try to defend why it should. No, above the line is our response to everything, and that's the makeup of our leadership council, and that's why we're going to be really good. I think it's because those guys, and the tone they set every day, in their mentality, in the responses to adversity, with the way they work. Nothing's guaranteed. I can't promise you we're going to win. I can't promise you we'll win one game. But I can promise you that we're going to have a together group that's hungry and continues to work till the final buzzer of the final game.
Good stuff. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Darren. Coach, Chandler, that's all the time we have for you this morning. Really appreciate you all taking the time to join us. We wish you the best of luck. Stay safe, and we'll see you during the season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. We will now transition over to the women's basketball side with interim head coach Samika Randall-A, as well as senior guard on the women's team, Anika Riley. Good morning, ladies. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you are doing well.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can see you and everything. And Coach, well, you getting started with us on what it's been like getting ready for the season, obviously coming in from the interim side, taking over during the pandemic, and obviously preparing your team during the preseason as you get ready for the start of the year.
Well, I think you can, I'm quite sure this will be brought up out of the shakeup in the roster. So as soon as I was announced as an interim head coach, obviously I had to go out and find some student athletes in a short period of time to try to, at least put a team together out there. And so every day has been a work in progress. Often reminded of my mentor, Al Brown, who was a former coach at Duke. That's his last stop, but he coached me at the University of Tennessee. He always said, Randall, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So really, I've tried to hone on to that and basically just take my time in terms of trying to really build a program from the ground, from scratch. And I understand that I have some kids that were left over from, say, last year, 2 starters, obviously, from last year that played. But the whole team is new in terms of some of our returners played minimum minutes last season. And then you just got a bunch of new players. And so we're all, like, every day trying to find ourselves. Some days are good. Some days we're all scratching our head like, whew, this is going to be a long season. But biggest thing is just trying to take one day at a time. And I said this to our kids, can we get 1% better?
Thank you, Coach, and welcome in Anika Riley, senior guard. We'll let you kind of give us your perspective on how the preseason's gone. Obviously, the adjustment. Coach Randall A. was an assistant last year, so but just how that's going for you and your teammates.
Like Coach said, it's been a work in progress. It's taken a lot more of the detailed things to bring us together, but we are getting there, with all the new things being the new style of coaching, the new people coming in, the freshmen, and just different people trying to adapt to this and get on the same page. But it's also been, since I got the chance to get to know Coach Meek last year in her role as assistant coach, I kind of got a sense of and a feel of how she does things and how she leads a team. So it's been a work in progress, but I feel like we're on the right track. And
thank you. We'll go ahead and start taking questions for both Coach and Anika. To do so, please enter your name in the group chat, and we'll take them as they come in. And I believe our first question is for Coach from Brock Bowling. Go ahead, Brock.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for the time today. With this season just now starting up, it's early. You mentioned it's kind of a work in progress with your group of players, but what do you like best in what you've seen so far in your team early this preseason?
Well, as we've been working, it's been kind of fun watching them, like now that they know what my system is or my expectations, watching them coach themselves and trying to figure it out. Actually smirked it today because I was actually going to give some instructions, and then one of our student athletes just took over, Malia in particular, and just started explaining it to one of her players. So when you see that growth, that really makes me happy. I know I probably don't say that to our student athletes probably enough, especially with these masks on. You can't see how I'm like smiling inside because I'm like, oh man, we're having that moment and they're getting it. And so I think if we can continue to keep building those things, like I think it will work itself out for us in terms of what our goals are for this upcoming season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brock. And Alex from Rock Hill Herald has a question for you, Coach. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, I was wondering if you could just give me a timeline as best as you can. I know that it happened a long time ago, but if you could just give me a timeline and kind of how everything unfolded with, your predecessor not coming back, and then you being named the coach, and then the steps that you've taken up until this point. I know that's an open-ended question, but if you could kind of fill in the blanks for me, that'd be great.
So Alex, I'm trying to do my best and answer this question. If I'm going back, March 23rd, Coach Woodard was let go, and then there was a process where the administration was trying to figure out who was best to lead this program. If I fast forward up, I say April 15th is because I remember it being close around the second for spring recruiting signing. So during that time, they announced me, and then for me, I hit the ground running. But what I tried to do a little different and say in my previous spots, I tried to re-recruit this team. So Anika probably can talk a little bit about this. I went back and recruited the student athletes that decided to stay. Explain what my vision was to them, and then just told them I'm going to do my best to try to fill in these gaps. It's really difficult trying to fill gaps in April, and you're trying to find, 7 players during that April to say June period, July. It's different, especially when you throw the virus on top of that. So we weren't able to get out and recruit like I'm used to, and like so many coaches are used to. So you're trying to spend a lot of time on the phone with people and then watching a ton of video. So at that time, you had to find the pieces that were available, and so I did that. But I wanted to make sure, again, I want to emphasize this. I tried to really go back and re-recruit our student athletes because I know they didn't pick me, and I just got here. So I visited with their folks, and again went on and recruited. And where we're at now, we were able to get back here in July and hit the ground running and trying to get to know one another.
Annika,
I hope I answered that question.
No, yeah, I think you did. You did. Yeah, that was great. Annika, could you kind of give the perspective of coach coming in from a player's perspective and how she re-recruited you, as she was saying?
Yeah, I mean, once Coach Woodard was let go, it was kind of a lot of, from a player aspect, it was kind of a lot of like empty, like, well, what's going to happen next? We didn't really have a lot of information since, the people behind the scenes were busy working to find us another coach. And so coming in with that, and then knowing that we also had people that decided to leave and a lot of core pieces. So it was kind of like, well, you don't have a lot to go off of. But once we kind of got a rhythm, and it was like, it felt really slow, but, we just kind of took it one step at a time. So, Coach Meek would tell us that there's people like she got this person, or we got, as the recruits start to come in and the new freshmen, and she would let us know when they were a part of our team now, and we can kind of start putting pieces together. So that led up to coming back in July and just getting to work, and got to work with the people, my teammates from last year, and people I was familiar with. And then once the new people got situated with entering the university and all of that, we got to get with them and really get to know. So it was a little later than usual, and especially with COVID, you had different protocols. We couldn't be around each other outside as much because, we had to be safe and try to stop the spread and all those kind of things, stick to the guidelines. But I feel like that process just helps us in general because we were able to get over a lot of missing pieces early, and get over that to be able to string together what we have now and be on the right track and be able to take it one step at a time altogether.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Alex. And we've got 2 more questions. First, Brendan Boylan for Anika. Go ahead, Brendan.
Anika, talk about adversity your senior year, right? You have COVID, coaching changes, having to learn a new system, and just everything that's came with the year 2020. With all of that, how do you channel that adversity into stepping into a leadership role as a senior?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, there's a lot of personal things you just have to get over. People don't really, we don't know what's happening as players on the basketball side, and also like as a country and on the health side, nobody has a lot of information about this virus yet. So it's a lot of like, well, what's going to happen? So you had to really dig deep. Like I had to dig deep and just want to do it for the team, and knowing that it's my senior year and this is a role I'm supposed to fill. And obviously it's still hard for me to get over those things, but think about it from somebody who doesn't have as much experience as me, and they're coming in, like freshmen are coming into college and having Zoom classes and not being able to be around their teammates, and they don't even know them that well. So you have to break a couple more barriers, but I feel like for the task of bringing everyone together and stepping into that leadership role, that's just another part of it, because that's a job as a senior anyways, to bring people together. And although Corona and new changes and new systems provide more hurdles to jump, it's still a process of taking that first step to commit to bringing people together.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. And actually, that was our final question for the Winthrop Eagles. Coach, Anika, we appreciate you so much for joining us today. We wish you all the best of luck this coming season. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you during the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.